You want to talk about movies? Great, me too. So, Joker 2 and Deadpool 3 just came out with some new trailers, and they both look great, especially Joker 2. Like, legitimately, properly, really good. And I cannot wait. That's a big deal coming from me, because between you and me, I didn't quite care for the first Joker movie. I feel your boos, and I'm okay with that. I'm looking forward to revisiting it, see how my opinion has shifted over time, because as it stands right now, I've seen it twice, and I just have some problems with it. But that's neither here nor there. But just to say, despite me not loving the first one, I am over the moon excited for the next one. However, between Joker 2 and Deadpool 3 being the only big superhero theatrical releases to come out, I'm noticing an interesting trend that's going on with our spandex cinema. Is it good, bad, indifferent? All of the above. None of the above? I don't know, but it sure is adult. Thank you so much for watching. If you could do me this kindness before we get going, if you would go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I'm seriously dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers, and whenever I get there, I'll be like, hey, look at that, whenever I see that notification on my phone. And don't you want that to be you? So what I would like to do with this video is to take a closer look at both of these movies a little closer, both to see how they look as just films on their own, but actually as different products for their studios. Before we get into it, let's look at where we are at the current state of superhero films. Like I said before, I believe we're living in a post-peak superhero landscape. That's not to say that superhero movies are done, far from it, but it's no longer the all-consuming cultural juggernaut it was in the 2010s. Especially after 2023 being especially unforgiving to any superhero film that isn't the best of quality, our cel-shaded characters are kind of in dire position to prove their relevancy in a way that they haven't had in many years. Cel-shaded characters are in kind of a dire position to prove their relevancy in ways that they haven't had to do in some time. The interesting thing is that in 2024, both studios are taking their foot off their gas pedal a little bit to recalibrate behind the scenes, deciding to only release one movie theatrically each. That is Deadpool and Wolverine from Marvel and Disney, and Joker Folie from DC/Warner Brothers. At a distance, they look very differently, and totally they are. Deadpool looks like it's going to be a madcap, odd couple, cosmic road trip adventure film, and Joker 2 looks like it's going to be a somber, awards-baiting, romantic, psychological drama. / musical? But what do these two movies have in common, beyond the fact that they're both about superhero comic book characters? Obviously. They were both R-rated, and that should tell you something. What? I'm not entirely sure. At this time, both DC and Marvel are reshuffling things behind the scenes to a varying extent, and the only thing they're bringing to market this year is for a most mature demo. Not that I have anything against R-rated superhero movies. For the record, I am very excited for both these movies. But what does it mean when a few years ago an R-rated superhero movie seemed like a big risk, and now it's the only thing that studios are going to release this year? Both seem like they're guaranteed hits. I mean, aren't these on some level supposed to be meant for children? I know, I hear you, silly Tanner. Comics aren't just for kids. I know, I've read Year One, I've read The Dark Knight Returns, I've read Watchmen, or I've just watched the animated movies, and you would just never know. I'm well aware that comics have the ability to tell all sorts of stories from myriad of ranges of tones and maturity levels. It's one of the things that I truly love about this genre. I just think it's something worth taking note of, that as the relevancy of the superhero movie is starting to wane, they're relying on its most mature audience to keep it afloat this year. So let's take a close look at both of these movies, starting with Ryan Reynolds' most valuable brand that he owns that he doesn't actually own. And that, my friends, is Deadpool. It's kind of weird to think that the once red-suited stepchild of the offshoot of the X-Men Marvel Universe is now being looked at as the savior of not only the mainline MCU, but being able to be the vehicle to properly introduce the mutants into the MCU. So much so that they brought back the original Golden Boy long-term actor / superhero Hugh Jackman back to do all the HGH and put on the claws one more time. And it's probably not going to be the last time either, let's be honest. All cards on the table. I like Ryan Reynolds. I have since, I guess, played Trinity, but more accurately since Just Friends. Underrated rom-com, in my opinion. I haven't grown tired of his shtick, even if I wish he would branch out and do more things beyond just an extension of the Deadpool role. However, it's easy to see Ryan Reynolds is such a great match for the Deadpool material, and it's still just a little strange that after all the success of the Fox X-Men movies, even with some very big misses, that the Deadpool franchise is the one that's to shepherd in the X-Men into the mainline MCU. Not only that, but this movie is expected to be the next big canon episode. You know, the episode where things are very important because stuff is happening and stuff is expanding a lot further and setting a lot of stuff up for the future, like Secret Wars. But why is that such a big deal, I hear you not asking? Well, the point of Deadpool is that he is a freakazoid type character, lampooning everything around him and taking nothing seriously. He's meant to be the most postmodern entity, and now he's entering the MCU, which is already pretty postmodern in and of itself. But he's meant to do it in the most raunchy and violent way possible. So much so that they got the MCU Stan Lee and Kevin Feige to say the F word on stage. And somehow we're meant to pretend like that's a big deal. Yay! We got the big band to say the bad word. Deadpool has worked more of a niche character for most of his existence. So it's still a little strange to me to see how he's evolved into an A-tier player. And that's not lost on the creative, even making jokes about it in the trailers. Along with sticking it to Disney with a nice packing joke. Now listen, I like the Deadpool movies, I really have, but they do come off to me as something that they think that they're a little more edgier than they really are. They are certainly the most edgy thing to come out of their respective franchises, but they come off a little more corporate-approved anarchy than the actual finger in the nose of the establishment that they present themselves to be. Which actually might point to why they are as popular as they are. Listen, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's something different, and something that I've been talking about that Marvel needs to do, which is get out of its comfort zone and be a little more risky. And honestly, what's a better way to take a very safe risk than with an already established track record of success with their first R-rated movie, Deadpool. Now on to Clown Prince of Crime's new movie, which is somehow supposed to be a serious cinema and a Martin Scorsese send-up. A guy who seriously loves superhero movies. It's hard for me to talk about Joker 2 without really talking about Joker 1. Like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of the first one, but I am looking forward to going back and revisiting and see how my opinion has shifted. At the time, I felt like a lot like Deadpool. It thought itself much more edgier than it actually was. It was trying really hard to be a Martin Scorsese film that was definitely copying from. A strange choice from the director of the Hangover trilogy. That is, unless you look at the movie that Todd Phillips did between Hangover 3 and Joker, and that was the 2016 movie War Dogs. A movie based on the true life story of two young men who became weapons dealers for the United States government for the Iraq and Afghanistan war. A movie I really like and I recommend, but like Joker 1 and probably Joker 2, it wore its Scorsese influences on its sleeve. And it was during the premiere of this movie that Todd Phillips felt disheartened that his movie wasn't getting the traction that he felt it was deserved. And he felt like if this was a serious movie but made about a comic book movie, it would start gaining the attention that he felt like his films needed. Then and now, I feel like that's kind of a cynical reason to make a movie. However, I do feel like Todd Phillips did take the work seriously and made a film that he was really passionate about. And I can't argue with the results. It's a movie that made $1 billion and got some Oscar nomination, leading to a sequel with Joker 2 Folie, looking to adapt the famous Mad Love story from the Batman lore in a new way that fits Todd Phillips' universes from the first established movie. This time being a jukebox musical with pop megastar turned Academy Award level actor Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. And between you and me, I do love me some Gaga. And this is a side note, but I do find the parallels of Todd Phillips and Adam McKay's careers quite interesting. Both of them started out as the 2000s big comedy directors, and as their careers gone on, they transitioned into more serious movies or still having a very humorous edge. Now that I'm thinking about that, could be a topic for a later day. Comment below if you want that video, and I will read that comment. At this point, I don't have much to say about the movie itself, other than I do think it looks really, really good, and I cannot wait to see it. But it's very interesting to me as a product offering from DC, because this is the launch of their DC Elseworld titles, a division of DC films that allow creatives to tell stories outside of the DCU proper continuity, allowing creatives just greater freedom to do whatever they want to while using characters and not having to be bogged down in continuity. Something that I said DC should be doing for a very, very long time. Not just because I really want to see more Matt Reeves Batman in my life, although I definitely do need that. So I do want to see just greater creative risk with superhero movies in general. So even if I didn't love the first Joker movie, I still want Joker 2 to succeed, not only because it looks great, but because it allows creatives to take greater risk with properties like that. But pretty much that's all I have to say about Joker 2. Except for the fact the movie is called Joker Folie, Deux, and it's supposed to be a jukebox musical. So if I don't get Lady Gaga singing Disloyal Order of Water Buffalo, I don't even know what we're doing here. So now that we've taken a look at both of the big comic book releases of 2024, what makes them stand out? In my opinion, they're both different types of comic book movies than what we've gotten in the past couple of years. They both come from a place of more of an artistic devotion than some of the other comic book movies we've seen. Quantumania, what were you? That alone should make them stand out and be celebrated. But as I alluded earlier, both of them are rated R. And that's the thing that really stands out to me. Is that these are the only big comic book releases to come out theatrically, and they're both R rated. This wasn't always the plan, especially with Marvel having to delay several releases for a lot of reasons that I won't get into now. But I can't help but to think that after the rough year that comic book movies had in 2023, the only thing that's getting released as now R-rated movies pointed at their most mature audiences. I know that just because it's R-rated doesn't mean that the youths aren't going to go see it. However, I do think it's fair to say that at their core, comic books are supposed to be for a younger audience. I understand that a lot of great work comes out of comics pointed at a more mature audience. And I'm a lover of many of those stories, I really am. And I'm excited for these movies about as much as anyone else could be. I just think projects like this should be the exception more than the rule. And as a whole, they still are. But in 2024, mature comic books stories are the rule and not the exception. Not just movies. Marvel released Echo, which was a more mature audience. And then X-Men 97, which might not be a mature thing, but it is definitely pointed at an older audience. Is the comic book movie phenomenon no longer trying to court younger audiences and only trying to focus on catering to the older audiences that they've already captured? Only time will tell, but I do think this is something worth discussion. My mind goes back to Alan Moore and talking about his own work, The Killing Joke, when he said, "I think I put too much melodramatic weight upon a character that never really was designed to carry it." Then going on to say that if he was ever to write a character like that, he would want to bring it back to more of the silly uncle period. And that's Alan Moore talking about Batman. There should be a space for all types of tones and characters, exploring stories. And that's the beauty of comic books. They can take these characters in several different places and tell so many different stories with so many different tones. When the story is no longer trying to cater to its original younger audience, it could mean not great things for the comic book movie industrial complex. That's where I'm going to leave it now. I would love to hear it from you. What are your thoughts about Deadpool 3 and Joker 2 coming out this year? Do you have the same feelings that I have? I would love to know. Please comment below. Let me know. Also, side note, during the scripting of this, I had to abbreviate Deadpool to DP, which is funny because DP also stands